Steel, a character who is often overlooked, and I've seen claims that the character apparently is quote-unquote boring. However, I'm going to argue that very much isn't the case, because, well, I like Steel. In fact, he's one of my favorite DC characters. Steel, aka John Irons, was brought into comics during the Reign of the Superman arc, that being in the 90s, when four men dressed like Superman would show up after the death of Superman. Steel, Superboy, Eradicator, and Cyborg Superman. The latter of which will be villains. I actually really liked that entire arc. All four of the Supermen were, in my opinion, great. Nowadays, Steel as a character has been recently romantically involved with Lana Lang, as well as having started a rivalry with Metallo, and soon will be getting his own comic book series called Steelworks with his niece Natasha, which is set to come out later this year, which I, for one, am very excited for. I think what has unfortunately harmed the character for what feels like forever was his 1997 live-action movie. A movie that I didn't even know was meant to be Steel. I thought it was a rip-off superhero movie when I saw the poster. It wasn't until I actually watched the movie and saw it a few years ago under a list of DC live-action movies that I realized it was intended to actually be Steel and it wasn't actually from DC. The movie itself is both bad as well as being just very off-putting, with huge changes to the source material as well as some very low-budget CGI and costumes. Especially the costume that Steel wears, with it looking like a rubber remake of the Batman suit without ears, spray-painted gray, while his hammer looked like styrofoam. I know it is a movie from the 90s, but still, this isn't 90s CGI or 90s costume designs. It looks like it's from the 70s. As well as they forgot to pay their electric bill because it's always in the dark. It's like their production is so broke, they can't turn on a light. Which makes me think that the whole budget went to Shaq appearing in the movie. Which, in his defense, I do think he does try here to the best of his ability with a pretty bad script and really bad costume. Now, luckily, Steel will be given a better live-action appearance in Superman Lois, where the characters from another Earth where Superman was actually a villain. He and his niece, Natasha, who was changed to be his daughter on the show and renamed Natalie, but would play big roles in the first 3 seasons of the series. His romance with Lana Lang would also be adapted for the show, as well as having been depicted as being both very comic accurate at the same time as being very different. But I did really enjoy this version of the character, even if I have some problems randomly turning Natasha straight, despite the character being gay in the comics. Now, Steel is a character I think can work well as being a character that is both popular enough to have fans, but not popular enough to have a black and white origin. Instead, it can be slightly different in the depictions of the character, which some might find a downgrade. However, personally I think that makes Steel a character with multiple possibilities. He can be adapted for many different stories. For example, Superman the animated series, Superman Lois, and Young Justice all use the character, yet do alter his origin, as his character does come from the Reign of the Superman arc, which is an entire storyline that is a sequel to a previous storyline, that being the death of Superman. And some media just don't have the capacity to do that, especially when Superman is the main character. Therefore, they have to have the character be introduced in a different fashion. I mean, I suppose technically for Young Justice, we don't actually know how the character works in that canon. But considering he joined in Season 3, that being on the Justice League, and Superman was alive in Season 2 and 3, and it was said that Superman was in space for quite a while, for months, at the start of Season 3, it was also said that there was a year time jump between the seasons. I don't think Superman died, came back, went to space, still joined the Justice League within the span of what is probably about 3 months. However, yet again, I could be wrong. Maybe that whole storyline is intact for the Young Justice universe. However, I'm including it on the list of adaptations that change the character because, well, I don't see how that is possible. Also, Superboy had a fairly big part in the Reign of Superman arc, which obviously can't happen in this canon. As like Steel, that is where his origin comes from. Steel works very well in science stories, with him being hyper-intelligent, as well as being a great fighter, letting him work well in different storylines, in story settings. From world-ending events to smaller stories about detective crimes. The character also being powerless and a member of the super family also makes him unique in that way, which can make him stand out along with his costume, which is, in my opinion, a strikeout compared to the rest of the Superman family, who typically wear blue and red. Therefore, it lets Steel kind of pop out in a lot of the panels when it shows the entire super family together. But yet again, I really like the character, so perhaps my eye is just lingering towards Steel because of the fact I like him. Regardless, I don't think Steel is boring in any shape or form. I think the character has a lot of potential, and I am very excited for his solo series. Well, technically it isn't a solo series, but he's the leader of a group and is referred to being the main character along with his niece. And I'm excited to see where the Metallo and Steel plot goes. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!